Cura, the slicer by Ultimaker, and ultimately for them too, but fully open source and one of the most popular slicers on the market. Let's get into it. Thank you so much for joining us on this Back to Basics video all about Cura. And again, this is part of a series. So over here, this card will be taking you to the entire series so you can look at other slicers that are available out there as well. This is to give you a general rundown of the slicer itself so that you are better prepared when it comes to making awesome. And hey, don't forget to leave this video a like, and don't worry, we'll have some comments to talk about. This is the Prusa Mark 3S, and I think that it looks beautiful. We've got basically the correct Prusa build plate as well as the bottom X bracket that holds up that entire build plate and heat bed combination. The one thing I did notice about Cura is that the standard settings that I'm used to for the mouse that are common in Prusa Slicer don't exist in here, and I'm sure there is a way for you to configure it to do whatever you want, but I'm trying to look at this in its stock settings, unchanged. That way we're giving these kind of the best chance that they have without me screwing around too much, right? When we showed off Prusa Slicer, I showed off the bare bones settings, not the crazy stuff that we've done, but as expected, a lot of this stuff is changeable. Remember how we said in that original video that Ultimaker Cura has lots of options, and then Future Grant said, no, you dingus, they're not all set from factory. Just to give you guys an idea, look at all the freaking settings. I will tell you, no less than half of them are completely and validly worthless to 95% of users, right? You are probably not gonna play with a prime tower. You're probably not gonna bother with the widths of the roof or floor lines for your support. But if you want to get really nitty gritty, Cura really enables that, where even Prusa Slicer says, you know what? You don't need to mess with that. We kinda got it, dog. Just trust us. Cura says, hey, look, we're not going to tell you not to do it, but if you do mess with it, it's kind of on you and not on us. Okay, thanks. You have options to look at all your machines. Apparently back in the day, I looked at this when we were buying a Piapoli Moai, but hey, whatever. And you can also update your firmware directly from Cura, which is pretty cool. Normally, you would be doing that inside of Prusa Slicer. Now, personally, I'm going to be using Prusa Slicer for it because it just flashes natively, and I don't know, I don't want it to break. This is all very, very specific. You can add in heated build volumes. Let's say you have a kitted out Prusa and you give it a heated build chamber. You're able to do all those things here. So very, very cool features inside of Cura. But again, I think that if you're a newbie, don't touch all of that. Let's look at bringing in a model. Of course, we're going with none other than the 3D Benchy. And instantly it says, hey, you want to slice? Let's slice. Let's do it. Let's slice. Let's dice. Let's take you to Flavor Town. Wait, no, don't eat the plastic. Don't do that. Unless you're using a cocoa press made by a buddy of mine, Evan. Those machines are really cool, and there's a Linus Tech Tips video all about it. We'll card to it there as well, so you guys can go take a look at it. But that machine is really cool, and hopefully one day we can have that type of influencer clout where we are able to review one of those machines as well. But I digress. This is not about 3D printing chocolate. This is about 3D printing plastic. You've got lots of kind of basic options under here. You know, profiles for whatever sizes that you want, but I don't understand why they give you a 0.4 and a 0.6. I guess if you're not running a stock machine with a 0.4 nozzle, you might want to run a 0.4 or a 0.6 layer height. With a 0.4 nozzle, you should not be doing that high of a layer height unless you really know what you're doing. It messes with all of your flow parameters, so don't touch it. Stock Cura wants to use 0.15. And they have a normal and a fine, and their draft is 0.2. Personally, I think 0.2 is normal, 0.25 is draft, and 0.15 is fine, but that's just splitting hairs, honestly. Let's take a look at their normal 0.15. We can do gradual infill as well, which is similar to the adaptive cubic inside of Prusa as far as I'm aware, but I like that they just kind of give you real simple things. So, all right, you want your infill? It's going to gradually increase up to 90% at the top. Be curious to see what that looks like. We have support that we can add in here, and adhesion, which is a brim or a raft. And we can come here into the custom and really dive in more into those. So again, you could just go straight with your recommended where it's like, I don't want to friggin' touch it. Just give me some basic parameters and then I'll take care of everything else. Or you can say, nah, man, I'm a power user. Let's have some fun. And remember, this is totally free. This software doesn't cost you a dime, and you don't need to have an Ultimaker machine to use Ultimaker Cura. And you can look at every freaking line of code that goes into the slicer, see the changes, see the development, and it's all on GitHub. Of course, we will link to that in the description down below. So if you want to check out all of the changes and the new feature requests that are coming out, you can as well. Because let's be real, this is your interface with your 3D printer. Your experience with this will make or break your experience with your machine. If your slicer sucks and your experience with slicers sucks, you're not going to praise 3D printing, right? And Ultimaker is also updating all the time. Unlike slicers like Slick 3R, which we will have a video coming out on. So if you want to see what a slicer that hasn't been updated in 3 years is really all about, make sure you get subscribed because that video is coming really, really soon. But Cura is getting updated all the time, right? You look at all of these cheap printers coming out of China, and of course we covered a lot of those right here. A lot of them are using Cura because it's completely open source, and they are providing profiles to Prusa Slicer and Prusa Research that they can be integrated into Prusa Slicer, because at the end of the day, open source means more adaptations and acceptance as an industry. And I had a conversation with an individual in the comments of our last video all about open source versus closed source. And while closed source does have value, it does limit the effectiveness of a slicer to breach the market in a market that is controlled by open source machines and software. So that's my personal opinion. You're welcome to disagree with me, but I would love to hear your opinion about open source, and if you think it is awesome or not, let me know in the comments below. The one thing I don't like about Cura is that all of your print settings are really in one line here. So we can do travel, speed, cooling, the support's already there, all of these adhesion things, and oh yeah, this is just without me adding all of this extra preferences, because inside of configure Cura, you can come in here and add, like I was talking about before Future Grant rudely interrupted me on that original video, hundreds of options. And remember, most of them are completely superfluous to your needs. Okay, let's go back to our recommended. Let's turn off our support. Let's turn off our adhesion. And let's slice this bad boy. Let's take a look at it. This definitely slices faster than Prusa Slicer. I will give them credit there. Now, how do I... Ah, there we go. I hit preview and that will let me see the layers. Oh, wow. It's like letting you see quite literally everything. Oh, that is so cool. Actually shows you how the printer is going to print in real time. And I love this. Similar to how Prusa Slicer up in its top left has your percentages and how long certain things take. It does the exact same thing here. I see that our default value is still in euros, and I'm sure that we can adjust that. Here's where we can scroll through our layers. Originally, I couldn't find it because clearly I'm a moron sometimes. We can scroll through all the layers here and take a look at the effects of their gradual infill. So we'll start at layer 1, move ourselves up. Yeah. That's honestly pretty darn cool. We see it's an hour and 57 minutes and 14 grams of plastic without it, or with it enabled. Let's see what it is with it disabled. Everything else being the same, of course. 10 grams in an hour and 31. So, alright, well, the gradual infill may not be your best choice if you are going to try to save time and materials, but I bet on some really big prints, you would see some value there. But we can look at our infill. And of course, I don't think it's, and yeah, it's not enabled by default. Ah, we can go to expert. Oh boy. That is a lot. See, this is just so much for you to go through. And don't get me wrong, I think this is nice. I think it's cool. But for the average user, even, like, I consider myself an expert. There is way too much here, and it's all on one little tiny row. Like, I don't know. I feel like there are better implementations that could be done with this, but I think that's just me being a little persnickety about it. I think Cura gives you a lot more control, and there is value in that. But I'll tell you, I'm trying to burn time while I try to figure out the infill pattern. There it is, finally. Took me longer than I care to admit. Let's see what quarter cubic is, because I have no idea what that is. We're at 11 grams in an hour 31, so a little faster. Huh. That seems similar to the cubic that Prusa Slicer does. They definitely have a lot more options, and of course, we would be remiss without showing off Gyroid. Again, one of my favorites infill patterns because it's just fun, but it is one of rather the slowest patterns out there. Grid would likely be the fastest. Coming in at the exact same amount of time as Gyroid. Interesting. Well, lots of options here nonetheless, and that's not bad, but it's also not great. I like how they have your options, choose whatever you want. You can go with your advanced, basic, expert, and even the basic has still quite a few options. And again, not bad, but if you are a brand new person to this industry, it might be a little confusing. And if you do get confused, leave us a comment. I'll be happy to help you out through this. We can get through it together with the power of community. It's what it's all about. The UI is a little bit clunky, and I think it's clunky because I don't care about seeing my print when I'm messing around with my slicer settings. I want to be able to have lots of availability to see my slicer settings and not just in this little tiny window. Because it doesn't matter, right? I can change this to 12.5% and reslice it, and it will change it. But if I'm trying to find it very quickly, it's not very easy. And yes, I can come in here and search infill, and it's going to highlight infill for me. But does it matter? I don't know. Similar to Prusa Slicer, it's got a massive community with lots of answers. And some of you that have emailed us through our public email address, which is youtube@3dmusketeers.com, have found out the community always disagrees with itself. And there are a few things that the community will agree with, but there are lots that it will disagree with. Things like temperature towers, should you lubricate your hot end, and things like that. And we will answer those questions for you in upcoming videos, so make sure you get subscribed as well. But we want to try to shed light on some of the arguments that occur on Reddit and other platforms. But I think overall, Cura is a great software. I think that if you have a Creality printer, Cura is amazing. It gives you finite control over basically everything. You can stay in the prepare, you can go over to the preview. There's lots of options here, and of course, everything is editable. You can change your camera position, You can change from perspective to orthographic if you really want to make things weird. I'm gonna change it back because that freaks me out a little bit. And I guess Cura has a backup software, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I like Cura. I think it's valuable. But because a lot of what we use here in the shop is Prusa Slicer, and because I've gotten so used to the UI and the UX, the user interface and the user experience of Prusa Slicer, I look at Cura and say, you know, you used to be the top dog, and I love the fact that I could just come in here and click all, and that list just gets freaking massive. But realistically, it's not needed. It's really superfluous, and I think that if Cura would have more push toward a concise and user-friendly interface, I think that you would see Prusa users going over to Cura more often. Mind you, this is awesome. It's fully open source. It works on Windows, Mac, and Linux. So whatever platform you're on, the software works for you. And right, you're able to make whatever decisions you want. I highly recommend you download this. It's totally free. You've got nothing to lose. And the fact that it's open source, of course, makes it very valuable in your abilities to show off anything that you want inside of the slicer. We are going to do prints out of every single slicer, and it's going to be the bone stock settings out of them, and we're going to compare them. So Prusa will be in orange, Cura is going to be in blue, but that's going to be in an upcoming video, so make sure you're subscribed as well to get involved in that. Cura also has an awesome community where you can talk in a dedicated forum all for Cura to get questions and answers from the community to help you get from where you are to where you want to be. And that's awesome. Prusa has something similar, but I think Cura has a better implementation of it, but they've also been doing it for many years prior to Prusa Slicer. So I'm going to give the nod to Cura on that one because they've just gotten better. But I'll tell you, if you got questions, Prusa's own technical support division is really freaking good, and you can reach out to them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week via chat right on their website. But nonetheless, I think that even though this software was originally designed for Ultimaker machines and works incredibly well with Ultimaker machines, like an Ultimaker 3 inside of Cura is like easy mode for 3D printing. Just like Prusa Slicer with a Prusa printer is easy mode for 3D printing. As soon as you take them outside of their original ideologies and what they were designed for, things stop making as much sense as they used to. Things like, why is dual extruder still enabled? And I gotta find it because I have every single thing enabled here. Dual extrusion is still on here, but there's no reason for it to be, so I can come in here and turn it off. But good Lord have mercy, there are so many freaking options, and finding it without using the filter would be a pain in the butt. So there we go, we can have dual extrusion. Oh, and there's no way. Is there no way to turn it off? No way to turn it off. Hey, is what it is. And of course, you can just go right back to the defaults so you don't have to deal with any of that unnecessary BS. I love Cura. I think it's very valuable. We use it for our Lulzbot often, but that's really about my extent of use in Cura. It was our main software before Simplify 3D came out, and even more before Prusa Slicer came out afterwards. Things will change, and Cura has had phenomenal ironing. It had fuzzy skin well before Prusa Slicer had either of them. So when we look at features, Cura generally will win the game, but they've also been around for a lot longer. I'm going to show you guys some prints about it. That's going to be a whole separate video, but I'm excited to print in all these softwares because I am rusty inside of Cura, but I do enjoy it. Again, I wish that their settings were more easily found. I love how Prusa has their print settings, filament settings, and then machine settings. This is all in one place. It can be confusing. Yes, it's got the search feature. I'd rather see a more deliberate implementation of splitting things up. that's really all I got on this one. Let me know in the comments below. Do you use Cura? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? What would you like to see changed about Cura? I'll see you down in the comments. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. Because 3D printing chocolate, that just sounds like something that I would do and likely just end up reenacting the scene from I Love Lucy where they're just underneath a soft serve machine. Absolutely me. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave us a like and get subscribed and ring that notification bell. It helps us grow. And remember, we're going to have a Patreon coming soon. Your name could be over here. But hey, while you're over here, right below me is the playlist to the entire Slicer series. Let's go take a watch. I think you'll enjoy it. I'll see you down in the comments. Take care.